Hi, thank you for watching Dig into China. I'm Dong Shang. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Following the Chinese Communist Party's consistent tradition of handling somber matters with a festive touch, China has chosen Zhen revitalization as this year's annual character and 高质量发展 high quality development as the annual phrase. This aligns with the optimistic narrative surrounding China's economic outlook. However, speaking candidly, I believe this year's character for China should be 烂尾, unfinished, incomplete, at least in the economic sector. In this segment, let's review and assess the number of incomplete projects that Xi Jinping has encountered in 2023. I've identified a total of 5 such projects. Firstly, the economic recovery post-pandemic has been left incomplete. By the end of December 2022, the Chinese Communist Party initiated the relaxation of pandemic controls. During this period, there was widespread anticipation for the arrival of economic recovery, with international concerns about the potential rise in oil demand from China leading to an upswing in global oil prices. However, a retrospective look at this year's economic data, particularly the PMI trajectory, reveals that following the easing of pandemic restrictions, the Chinese economy saw only a modest rebound in the first quarter. Subsequently, it faced a downturn, and contrary to expectations, international oil prices did not surge. It appears that these concerns were largely unfounded. The health of China's economy is commonly assessed by observing 2 major factors: the real estate market and the stock market. Astute investors known for their discernment tend to be trustworthy guides. Hence, when we analyze the growth rate of nationwide real estate development investments, a distinct trend emerges. After reaching a peak in the first quarter, there is a noticeable and sustained decline. Similarly, the prosperity index for real estate development reached its zenith in April, following by a subsequent downturn. Turning our attention to the stock market, a glance at this year's trend chart for the Shanghai Composite Index reveals an initial glimmer of hope in the first few months, but as time progresses, the outlook becomes increasingly bleak. Therefore, one may question the notion of an economic recovery in China. It appears more like a downturn. To camouflage this awkward reality, the Communist Party resorts to coining terms to redefine what constitutes economic recovery. For instance, even in the face of an obvious economic decline, they might characterize it as a weak economic recovery. In ordinary circumstances, if we find that the economy isn't rebounding, the appropriate course of action is to pinpoint the problems and implement the targeted measures, utilizing policy tools to simulate economic recovery. However, Xi Jinping takes a different approach. He would prefer to let a project remain unfinished than admit to any mistakes. Consequently, after the first quarter, we witnessed the Communist Party not driving economic recovery, but instead hastening the economic decline, with all policy directions being misguided. Therefore, the stalled economic recovery initiative truly stands out as Xi Jinping's foremost failure this year. Secondly, the real estate regulation plan has come to a halt. Ever since Xi Jinping implemented the stringent 3 red lines policy 3 years ago, he maintained a firm stance for over 2 years. Recently, you can observe that the phrase 房住不炒, housing is for living not for speculation, has only just disappeared from official Chinese media. In reality, if Xi Jinping had allowed the real estate market to collapse and persisted with the strict measures implemented 3 years ago, it might not necessarily be detrimental for China. The timely bursting of the real estate bubble is crucial for China's economic prospects, and it's always better for it to happen sooner rather than later. In a robust market economy, it's essential for real estate to undergo periodic adjustments every few years. With housing prices experiencing fluctuations, this ensures that young individuals have the opportunity to enter the housing market, motivating them to consider starting families and contributing to the long-term stability of the nation. In any society, if real estate prices persistently rise for decades without periodic adjustments, the country's birth rate is likely to decline. Eventually, market forces will naturally deflate the real estate bubble, impacting everyone negatively. Property owners may experience a reduction in asset value, and those without homes may choose not to marry or have children. Therefore, it's crucial to periodically address the potential negative effects of real estate, much like a detoxing, to maintain a balanced and sustainable societal structure. Even though Xi Jinping expressed determination at the end of 2020 to address economic issues, especially in the real estate sector, he did not follow through with his efforts. His understanding of the real estate bubble was lacking, and he had no clear anticipation of the short-term economic impacts. This eventually led to the withdrawal of the real estate regulation plan, resulting in an unfinished policy. I have consistently compared Xi Jinping to a novice in economic knowledge. It's natural for beginners to make mistakes during the learning phases. However, most individuals typically practice and simulate in a controlled environment before applying newfound knowledge in real situations, similar to novice stock traders using simulation software to practice. But Xi Jinping is different. He boldly employs the entire Chinese society as his experimental laboratory without adequate preparation. All Chinese citizens become his test subjects. Consequently, by the time he acquires fundamental knowledge, the test subjects, the people, have suffered the consequences. Until now, I haven't observed any significant progress in Xi Jinping's economic endeavors. It seems he is still in the experimental phase. Given his age of over 70, this continuous experimentation is concerning. It's not ideal for someone to still be experimenting at this stage, and the people of China have unwittingly been his test subjects for decades. If the next leader is also a novice, the days of being experimental subjects may never end. The third unfinished project for Xi Jinping this year is the resolution of the local debt crisis. Xi Jinping's approach to handling the local debt issues bear similarities to his strategy in the real estate sector. Initially, he took a strong stance, asserting that the central government won't bail out local governments and refusing to foot the bill for the debts. However, in the end, financial support was provided, and there is a possibility that it might be required again in the following years. Yet, this approach doesn't address the root problem, as local governments are unlikely to halt their borrowing practices. Thus, one must question how many times the central government can continue to act as a safety net in the long term. The fundamental issue with the local debt problem stems from the Communist Party's flawed Key Performance Indicator (KPI) assessment system. Local government achievements are solely measured by GDP, compelling them to go to extreme lengths to inflate GDP, with debt-driven economic growth being the quickest means. Consequently, local governments find it challenging to curb their borrowing practices. However, in a one-party authoritarian government like the Communist Party, evaluating those under its rule poses difficulties. It's reminiscent of China's National College entrance examination, which, despite its imperfections, appears to be the most viable solution for talent selection. Otherwise, what alternative method would be suggested for talent identification? Utilizing various scoring dimensions or teacher recommendations would inevitably lead to power-seeking behaviors and corruption. Similarly, for local governments, a high GDP indicates effective governance, whereas the absence of substantial GDP makes it difficult to gauge the adequacy of their work. In democratic nations, the populace has the power of the vote, enabling them to evaluate and decide the fate of their leaders. If leaders are deemed proficient, they remain in office. If not, they are replaced. However, in China, where there is no voting system for the general public, the central government must establish a quantifiable standard for evaluating local officials to efficiently identify talent. Unfortunately, this often transforms into a predominant emphasis on GDP, comparable to the exclusive focus on exam scores in the Chinese college entrance examination. Fourthly, the Belt and the Road Initiative remains incomplete. This year marks the 10th anniversary for the BRI, but the well wishes received by Xi Jinping reveals a different narrative. Italy announced its withdrawal from the BRI. Nepal faced a fallout over the substantial debt linked to the Bayi-Lava airport project. Sri Lanka and Kenya encountered issues due to the considerable debt from the BRI, and even China's close ally Pakistan faced challenges. When Xi Jinping initiated the BRI, China was experiencing economic prosperity with a thriving economy and abundant national resources. As a result, Xi Jinping spared no expense, aiming to use BRI projects to engage economically challenged countries, allowing them to accumulate significant debts to China. When these countries struggle to repay the debt, China would seize their ports and airports as collateral. This strategy not only helped absorb China's excessive production capacity, but also facilitate the expansion of Chinese influence to various corners of the globe. Nevertheless, a decade has elapsed and the Chinese Communist Party has poured in excess of $1.9 trillion into the Belt and the Road Initiative. Instead of success, this massive investment has sparked a strong opposition from the people in BRI countries, leading to numerous instances of violence, including the killing of many Chinese workers by angered locals in foreign territories. Furthermore, with China's own economic downturn, Xi Jinping lacks the capacity to sustain the financial injections required to further expand the BRI. As a result, there has been a notable decline in China's BRI investments over the past few years. In 2016, China's BRI expansion reached its zenith, with loans exceeding $28 billion to Africa alone. However, in the most recent 2 years, China's investment has experienced a substantial decrease. In 2021, they lent a mere $1.2 billion to Africa, and in 2022, it dropped to less than $1 billion, illustrating a consistent downward trajectory. It's remarkable that Xi Jinping's grand BRI, envisioned to assert global dominance, has not only remained incomplete, but also faces the potential backlash of unrepayable debts from impoverished nations, posing a significant risk to China's major state-owned banks, including policy banks, as they may be compelled to absorb substantial bad debts. Fifthly, the pursuit of the internationalization of the Chinese yuan has been left incomplete. We previously delved into the concept of yuan internationalization, which essentially reflects Xi Jinping's ambitious aspirations. However, this endeavor resembles a fanciful dream for the CCP because fundamentally it involves the CCP utilizing US dollars to boost the international settlement volume of the yuan, a venture that results in financial losses. Given the yuan's lack of free convertibility, Xi Jinping could entertain this dream during a period when the national treasury was abundantly funded. During that phase, he entered into currency swap agreements with various countries, enabling them to take borrowed yuan from China to the offshore market and exchange it for US dollars, effectively borrowing US dollars from China. For instance, Argentina borrowed the yuan from China and utilized it to repay its US dollar debt to the International Monetary Fund. However, this year has seen a significant exodus of foreign capital from China, resulting in China's foreign direct investment showing negative figures and a substantial outflow of US dollars. As a consequence, the game of utilizing US dollars to bolster the international standing of the yuan has become untenable. Consequently, the discourse promoting the internationalization of the yuan within China has notably diminished in recent months. Towards the end of the year, the former mayor of Chongqing, Wang Qifan, addressed a financial forum, explicitly stating that China should refrain from challenging the US dollar but should strive for a currency status befitting a major global power. This change in rhetoric is remarkable, given that the previous official narratives often speculated about the potential collapse of the US dollar in favor of the yuan. In essence, the ability to speak with authority in financial matters is directly correlated with financial strength. The internationalization of the yuan can be likened to a mobile pay-to-win game played by Xi Jinping, where he is the VIP player continuously investing real money. While Xi Jinping previously engaged fervently in this game with substantial financial resources, the limited resource now rendered the game unplayable. Faced with this predicament, Xi Jinping declared that the game is no longer enjoyable and that he is tired of it. Consequently, the internationalization of the yuan has come to an abrupt halt. Maybe it explains why Xi Jinping holds a strong aversion to the gaming industry, particularly the concept of spending real money in games. In summary, Emperor Xi faced 5 major incomplete projects this year. These encompass an unfinished economic recovery, unresolved real estate market regulations, a lingering local debt crisis, an incomplete Belt and Road Initiative, and a halted effort to internationalize the Chinese yuan. The fundamental reason behind these challenges is Emperor Xi's lack of expertise in economics. Despite this, he insisted on personally overseeing and directing various initiatives, coupled with tendency to be touchy and envious of capable individuals. As a consequence, there is a lack of open critique, and he ends up treating the entire Chinese population as an experimental ground. This approach resulted in numerous projects starting without a clear plan for conclusion. Faced with difficulties, Emperor Xi hesitates to either advance or retreat. Eventually, he chooses to ignore the problems, leaving a mess for others to sort out. Therefore, the most unsettling situation is not the absence of capability, but the self-perception of possessing great wisdom and limitless abilities when evidence suggests otherwise. This mindset can become a significant menace, and unfortunately, Emperor Xi appears to exemplify these characteristics. As we bid farewell to the old and embrace the new, may the dawn of the new year bring you joy, success, and boundless opportunities. Wishing you a happy new year filled with laughter, love, and prosperity. May the coming year be a canvas of beautiful moments, a palette of vibrant experiences, and a journey filled with accomplishments. Here's to a new beginnings, cherished memories, and the endless possibilities that the new year holds. May each day be a step forward on the path to your dreams, and maybe the year ahead be a magnificent chapter in the book of your life. Happy New Year. Be well.